Welcome back to the Church of Business and Finance. I'm Richard Cooper. This is my co-host, Joanna Kirchner.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to be talking to you today about risks and rewards. Now, risk and reward is something that a lot of times people don't really understand. What are they risking? What is the reward? Are they gaining something? Are they losing something? And this is something that you need to decide for yourself. You have to decide what the risk is, what the reward is. Because what might be a big risk for you, for somebody else might not be a risk at all. It might be a risk that they're not willing to take. And the reward that you're looking for might be a reward that somebody else isn't interested in. You know what I mean? So every day you're going to take chances on stuff. You're going to take a chance if you're going to get out of bed. You're going to take a chance if you're going to go to work, if you're going to answer a phone call. And there's a risk that's inherent in all of these choices. And there's a reward that might be available to you if you win out or if it plays out favorably to you. Can you think of some ideas that might be risks and rewards in your life?
Definitely every time I get into a car. Because every time you get into a car, you're putting yourself at risk, getting out in the street. There's all kinds of crazy drivers. And the reward would be getting to your destination in one piece. So I think that's like a really widespread risk reward that we don't really think about, but I think about all the time when I go out driving and I see accidents just all the time, and I'm just like, oh, like I hope, just extra cautious. But I take that risk every day. Every time I go out to the store or anywhere, I keep that in mind.
No, and if you're going to drive more places, you're going to be taking more risks than somebody who's not riding or not driving, right?
Yeah. You try to just make the risk be less risky by being cautious or thinking it through, visualizing it, and taking all the steps necessary to kind of make it less risky.
Yeah, you want to minimize your losses on stuff.
Yeah.
Because, see, we're all going to lose. We're all going to lose a lot. But the idea is that we gain more than we lose. If we think about how many times we rode a bike, and we fell down. We fell down a lot of times. But we have to keep on getting up more than the number of times that we fell down. And eventually we get to a time where, we rarely ever fall down. Or maybe we try to put ourselves in riskier situations so that we can fall down again and learn from that. And that's an important thing too, is to learn from the times when we fail. But risk and reward. Risk and reward. What is this all about in our lives? And how does this relate to business and finance? Well, see, every single person that is running a business is taking a risk. When you drive down the street, we were driving down just the other day, and we were looking at all the little businesses. It was a tax preparer. There's somebody who's running a sandwich shop. Somebody else wants to have a dentist. Somebody else has, a casino. And these are all risks. They took the risk to start that business, whether they had to take out a loan or they had to save up for it, or they worked hard so that they could earn the approval from somebody else and maybe get a partnership with them or whatever. There's always these risks that are going on in business. But what is the reward? Well, there's a lot of them. And again, these rewards are different for different people. For somebody out there that's starting a restaurant, they might say, okay, well, the risk is their life savings. They've saved a lot of money and they want to, go into business for themselves. And maybe that's the big risk. They're putting in their last bit of effort and their time, because a lot of times these risks are things that can happen after a whole lot of work, and it can be discouraging to think, hey, I work really hard. That might mean that I can still lose, but it's the reality. And we have to understand that no matter how hard we do, how much effort and time and how hard we try and how smart we are and how much we prepare, we can still lose. There's always that risk that's involved. But what's the reward? Well, what if the restaurant does well? What if the restaurant does very well and they can pass that on to their children? What if they want to share a recipe that might have been kept secret or lost because they didn't get to share it? These are the rewards that are available for, let's say, a restaurant owner. And then, of course, you have monetary things, you have financial security, but there's all kinds of things that could go wrong. And that's what I hope that you're able to do in your lives, is to think about what risks are you taking and what rewards are you looking for, and making sure that they balance out. And understanding how to deal with that will make it so that you can not make foolish decisions. And the foolish decisions are the ones that you make when you don't think about the risk and reward ratio, when you don't think about how much do you have to lose or how much do you have to gain. I mean, why lose the world if you have to, just gain a little bit of something over here if it's not going to be, satisfactory to you? You have to really be understanding in what it is exactly that you're gaining and if it's worth it to you. I've seen people that decide they want to spend their whole lives attaining a certain job, or a certain job title rather. And then when they get it, they're not happy with it. They got the reward they thought they wanted, but they didn't really weigh it out. And now they've already lost out on whatever it is they put into it. It can be very complicated, but it's really a simple concept that even a little kid can understand. When they decide they want to have something or they want to ask for something, they're taking a risk in hearing somebody say no. But they still take that risk and realize, what do they have to lose? Can you think of something that maybe would kind of add to this type of thing?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about instant gratification lately and how people do the trade-off to like gratify themselves immediately as opposed to like delaying something or procrastinating doing something that ultimately would lead to their goal. And I think that you have a trade-off, like a risk and reward trade-off for different decisions. And people might take that instant gratification and they'll weigh the risk and reward and be like, I'm going to, risk very little to get a big reward. But in the end, they're risking their goal or completing their goal in exchange for the minor reward of instant gratification, like a snack or food or alcohol, or like putting off working on their goal.
Or even just a little bit of money. I heard someone who was talking about how, I think it was Kevin O'Leary, and he's talking about like your paycheck is what they give you to forget about your dreams. And it's the idea that, okay, well, I'm going to take this risk of doing it the way that my boss tells me to do it, that society has told me to do something, in the hopes that the reward will be that I get the financial security, and then I can use that financial security to get the things that I want in my life. But think about how many people, they take that risk and it doesn't work out well for them. It's a really, really big risk to ask somebody to say, hey, take on $60,000 of student debt and then take on, a bunch of your time that's going to be, in your youth or just whenever. And then you're going to spend that time and you're going to spend that money, and then you're going to have to get the job and the next job, and then you're going to have to get the job that comes before the job that is really the job that you want, but then that job that you wanted really isn't there. And I mean, think about how often this risk to reward ratio is kind of it's misrepresented. People act like, oh, if you take this little risk, you'll be guaranteed this big reward. But oftentimes, it's a lot of times like the lottery, where they tell you, hey, all you got to do is just buy a ticket. And you could win big. Yeah, you could win big. But how much are you risking on it? What's the gamble like? Is it in your favor? There's a lot of times when we have a risk-reward ratio that's a really big reward, and it's a really, really, really big risk. And instead, if we try to balance that out a little bit more, so that the amount of risk that we're taking isn't so significant, and we have a bigger reward waiting for us there, we can make it so that we have a better outcome for us, even if we do lose. Because we have to minimize risks. We have to minimize our losses. And we're going to talk about that here in our next little meeting. We'll talk about how to minimize our losses. Because just like understanding that there's a risk and a reward, we got to understand how much we're willing to lose. Because I promise you will lose. And you're going to lose a lot. But you want to win more.
That's called risk management.
Indeed. My girlfriend works in trading stocks, and she started a blog and Instagram page. And she's talking about some of the tradings that she's been making over the past roughly year,
Few months.
for a few months or so.
Yeah.
And understanding that reward, that risk that she's taking, or how to minimize that risk, or understanding how to manage that risk, learning how to cut losses. These things are just as apparent in trading stocks as they are in going to school, as they are with maybe taking another drink when you're out with your friends.
Choosing a career path.
Yeah,
Choosing an occupation.
all kinds of stuff.
It's like, I'm just going to take this job so I can pay my bills, but then they forget about their dreams over the years. So, what are you really
Think about
risking?
it. Yeah, exactly. You got to think about it. And I hope that you're able to think about it. We're going to talk about that more as we get into this kind of stuff and figuring out some more specific cases. But think about the risk versus the reward. Is it worth the risk? Is the reward worth the risk? You know, are you willing to lose what you're willing to risk? Are you putting all your eggs in one basket? Or are you spreading it out? Are you managing your risk? You know, I don't want to just say like YOLO, but I want to... Are you just kind of going crazy with it? Are you just putting all your stuff out and saying, hey, I'm going to put it all on black and just let it go and let it ride?
It's a Hail Mary.
You know? It's your life. Make some good decisions. All right? Now, we'll see you next time. See you later.